No doubt that he is amassing them to use them against our friends, against our allies, and against us.
Does that mean going to war with Iraq, even if we have to go it alone? Yes, says Republican Senator Fred Thompson. No, says former Secretary of State Lawrence Eagleburger. Thompson and Eagleburger, two Republicans with very different views on Iraq. Then, only 65 days until Election Day. Which issues will lead which party to control of Congress? With us, the chairman of the Congressional Campaign Committees, Republican Tom Davis, Democrat Nita Lowey. They square off.
But first, Iraq. With us, U.S. Senator Fred Thompson of the Senate Intelligence Committee, former Secretary of State Lawrence Eagleburger. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Very important subject this morning. It's called war. Let me show you what Vice President Cheney said on Thursday and ask you both to respond.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction. There is no doubt that he is amassing them to use them against our friends, against our allies, and against us. On the nuclear question, many of us are convinced that Saddam will acquire such weapons fairly soon.
Secretary of State Eagleburger, the nature of the threat. Do you agree with Vice President Cheney?
I don't know. We've just heard him say that Saddam has weapons of mass destruction already. Then we hear him say that many have no doubt that he will have nuclear weapons. So I have to think he's saying that Saddam does not yet have nuclear weapons. I guess that's what he's saying. I have said, I will continue to say, that if we know that Saddam has or will have soon nuclear weapons, then I will not argue for 1 minute that we have to go in and get him, even if we have to do it unilaterally. What bothers me very much is that I don't know exactly what the situation is. I do know this, that unless it is very clear that Saddam is very close to having nuclear weapons, not just any old weapon of mass destruction, but nuclear weapons, very close to having them, I think it would be very wrong for us, alone, without allies, to go in and try to take him off the scene, to march into Iraq, replace him with somebody else, stay there as an army of occupation for some years. We do not understand the morass we will be walking into unless the threat is so immediate that we must act. And Vice President Cheney keeps saying it is immediate, and then we hear immediately thereafter that the president hasn't made up his mind yet. I think there's a disconnect here, and I don't understand it.
Senator Thompson.
I don't think that we can afford to try to calibrate just the moment that he obtains these weapons and precisely when he will use them. I think without question he has the capability, he has the infrastructure, he has the scientists, he has the expertise. All he's lacking is the fissile material. If you talk to the inspectors who went in there before, they'll tell you that he had a type of a Manhattan nuclear project. They had a facility that's similar to the one we've got down in Oak Ridge to enrich uranium. They had 40,000 people over a period of time working on their nuclear project. We went in and disrupted some of that when the inspectors went in there earlier. But there's every reason to believe, inspectors haven't been in there for 4 years now, there's every reason to believe if he doesn't have it now that he will in the near future. And I don't think that we can afford to sit back and let that happen. I think the situation will be much more difficult if we discover that he now has them, that he holds the entire Middle East as hostage. He's sitting on so much of the world's oil reserves. I just don't think that the situation we had with the Soviet Union, mutually assured destruction, is going to work with a fellow like Saddam. He's acted in ways that were unpredictable in times past, and at least the Russians were rational about their approach. We didn't think that he would invade Iran. We didn't think he would invade Kuwait. We can't afford to guess wrong about what his intentions would be once we discover he has those weapons.
Former weapons inspector Scott Ritter has said that Saddam is not a threat, that while he was an inspector, about 95% of his capability was destroyed. Hans Blix, the chief UN inspector now, was on this program last week, and he said, we don't know what Saddam has, and we will not know unless we get inspectors back in there. Would you, Senator Thompson, make an effort to put inspectors back into Iraq?
Well, first of all, we had the Chief Nuclear Inspector David Kay before our subcommittee. He said pretty much the opposite of that as far as his opinion is concerned. He thinks Saddam is proceeding apace with his program. No, I would not. In answer to your question, I think Saddam will not allow inspectors back in, number one. The Security Council will not support us to put inspectors back in, number two. And three, if inspectors went back in, it would be a fool's errand. These same former inspectors, Mr. Kay, Mr. Spurtzel, testified before the International Security Subcommittee of the Governmental Affairs back in March, I believe it was. And they said that there's no way that you can discover and determine what he has. There's too large a country, there are too many facilities. He's a past master, and even better now than he was then, on hiding facilities, and once you get close, he shuts you down. And then you go back to the Security Council, where we have friends and allies, supposedly, who are trading with Saddam, who want that trade, who want the cheap oil, who are, in the Chinese case, furnishing him with fiber optic communication systems. In the Russian case, just announced a new trade deal. These are the people we'd have to go back to if Saddam shut the door in our face again after having maybe bought himself another couple of years.
Secretary of State Eagleberger, would you draw the line and say to Saddam, okay, you have until December 1 to let inspectors back in the hopes of building an international consensus against him?
I would do what I could to try to build an international consensus. I think, excuse me, I think the senator has a good point, however, in terms of how much we could rely on inspectors even if we could get them back in. So I'm not at all sure that an inspection regime would do much, although if it helped get a international consensus behind us, I think that would be worth an attempt. But if I may, because, you know, I'm uncomfortable when I'm arguing with Senator Thompson, who I think is one of the best senators in the Senate, and I'm unhappy with him because he's chickening out and leaving at the end of this term. But I think, can I have 2 minutes to try to describe why I'm where I am? Because it's not, I think, as I've said, if he's on the verge, Saddam is on the verge of having a nuclear weapon, then I'm ready to do anything that has to be done. But the fact of the matter is the administration has provided no evidence whatsoever other than to say to us through the mouthpiece of the vice president, who has said it 6 times, 12 times, I don't know how many times, that it is a critical question. I mean, that it's critical time, that he's got these weapons. And each time, as I say, then we are followed up by being told that the president has not yet made up his mind on what he wants to do. Now, I'm sorry. The vice president can't have it both ways. It's critical, but the president's not yet decided what to do. What we need, I think, to keep in mind until we have decided exactly how much we know about what Saddam has is that the costs of going on our own into an invasion of Iraq without our allies is going to be extremely expensive, not only in dollars and cents, not only in terms of the costs of the battle itself, but have we thought about the fact that we will have to occupy that country, we will have to put in a new government, which will be ours, and which will be imposed upon the Iraqi people, whatever we say about it, that we will be surrounded by Arab states that will not be happy over the fact that we have become the imperial power in Iraq, that the cost of doing all of this, in the absence of clear evidence that we have to do it, is, I think, an extremely important question which the American people have to face. And my question really is, if we are so clear in our own minds that this is a real danger, why can't we convince our NATO allies of that fact? Why have we not been able to go to them, demonstrate to them why we feel this way about it, and convince them of the same thing?
The Vice President has heard your comments. Let me show you the way he responded to them on Monday.
Some concede that Saddam is evil, power-hungry, and a menace, but that until he crosses the threshold of actually possessing nuclear weapons, we should rule out any preemptive action. That logic seems to me to be deeply flawed.
The concern the Vice President expresses is that if we wait until we actually know he has nuclear weapons, it may be too late.
That isn't what I said.
He may use them, or he may blackmail the entire region by saying, oh no, don't invade Saddam, he'll use nukes against us.
Yeah, but that isn't what I said. I said not until we know he has them. I did say until we have sufficient knowledge to know that he is at least close to having those nuclear weapons. Now, I can't, I'm sorry, I just can't take it when the Vice President says we know he has this danger, but we haven't got enough evidence or at least we don't have enough eloquence to be able to convince our NATO allies that this is a sufficient threat for us all to get
So you
involved.
want the President of the United States to go before the American people and the allies and lay out very specifically what he knows about Saddam's threat, including satellite imagery if necessary.
I will tell you, I don't even want that much. If the President of the United States goes before the American people and says, our intelligence is clear, Saddam Hussein is very close to producing a nuclear weapon, I will take him at his word. Not that I'm that important, that isn't the issue. But I think the American people will take him at his word if he's prepared to stand up there and say, I am telling you on the basis of what we know, Saddam Hussein is very close to producing a nuclear weapon, and under those circumstances, I feel we must go. What I would like to know is why he can't do the same with our allies and convince them.
Let me turn to the issue of Saddam and terrorism. The Vice President said that the concern is that Saddam could develop an alliance with al-Qaeda, and al-Qaeda could deliver the very weapons that Saddam is producing. Brent Scowcroft, the former National Security Advisor for Bush 41, former President Bush, wrote an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal, and this is what he said. There is scant evidence to tie Saddam to terrorist organizations, and even less to September 11 attacks. Indeed, Saddam's goals have little in common with the terrorists who threaten us, and there's little incentive for him to make common cause with them. There is little evidence to indicate that the United States itself is an object of Saddam's aggression. Senator Thompson, you agree?
I don't think that there's really any question that Saddam has had relationship with terrorist organizations in the past. There is good indications, information from the Czech Republic that there has been some interrelationship between Saddam's people and al-Qaeda. But there's no hard evidence of any cooperation with regard to 9/11. I don't think there's any question about that. But that's not the issue. This is not a terrorism issue as such. It poses a threat, I think, to the free world. A fellow like Saddam having a relationship with terrorist organizations that he can use to do various things if he chooses to do so, and have the protection himself of avoiding the wrath of the United States if he can get away with that. We don't know if that's happening or not. But the real issue here is not the fact that he necessarily had anything to do with September 11. The issue here is that he is rapidly developing capabilities that are going to be not only inimical to our interest in the Middle East, but ultimately to the American homeland. We have underestimated in times past his capability. Our intelligence usually underestimates things such as missile capability of rogue nations, and in this case, the nuclear capability of Saddam. When we went in there in the early 90s, we thought that he was much further behind than he actually was. And he had these facilities, he had this infrastructure, he had gone along further than we thought. We can't afford, I don't think, to put the president in the position where he must calibrate down to the precise time or close to the precise time as to when that capability might be operable. If he has to develop his own enriched uranium, it'll be X years. If he's able tomorrow to buy it from someone in Russia, for example, it'll be a totally different scenario. But either way, I think it's imminent.
Let me show you some more Scowcroft. He is unlikely to risk his investment in weapons of mass destruction, much less his country, by handing such weapons to terrorists who would use them for their own purposes and leave Baghdad as the return address. You agree, Mr. Eagleberger?
Yeah, I've basically agreed with this line all along. Again, with the caution that the evidence is not terribly clear, but I have, and certainly the senator has access to more of this information than I do. All I can tell you is I've talked to as many people as I could find who know this issue, and I have, without without question, they all say to me, the experts that I've talked to, all say to me that there's very little evidence of any real connection between Saddam and Al-Qaeda or other terrorist groups, and that he is not a supporter of terrorism as such because he's got his own thing he wants to do.
But he did try to assassinate former President Bush.
So that he certainly did, but that doesn't mean that he is in with a bunch of terrorists. In fact, I would argue that all of this foofara about Iraq, that is, all of these speeches and this constant pushing the issue has, in fact, I think, tended to get the focus away from the war on terrorism.
Why is there such a difference of opinion between those who advised former President Bush, Bush 41, like yourself and Brent Scowcroft and James Baker, and those who are now advising Bush 43?
Okay, but let me make one thing very clear. So far as I know, none of us are spokesmen for the former President Bush.
Have you spoken to him about
I
this?
have not. So far as I know, Brent Scowcroft has not. So far as I know, neither has Jim Baker. So let me get this very clear. As far as I know, the former President of the United States is not using any of us to try to send a message to his son. That's the first point.
Have you spoken to Scowcroft and Baker?
I've spoken to both of them, yes.
Have you coordinated your efforts?
No, not at all. In fact, the only thing I called Scowcroft to tell him I liked his article a lot, and the same with Baker, but none of us have coordinated with each other.
Why do you think there's such a difference of opinion between 43 advisors and 41 advisors?
I'd like to say because some of us are smarter than others, but I won't say it that way. There is this, that to some degree there's a question of some experience. That's part of it. I can't say that, but certainly Dick Cheney has a lot of experience in all this. So I don't know what the difference is. I can only say that the three of us, at least, come from a different point of view on this thing, and part of it is concern over allies, and I don't want to overdo that, but I don't like to see the United States doing this alone if there's any way to bring our allies in with us, and I can't understand why we can't convince them if the evidence is there so strongly that Dick Cheney believes.
Can I address that issue? In the first place, the fact that a person that everyone respects, like Larry Eagleburger and these other gentlemen have these concerns, shows that there needs to be a discussion, a debate, congressional consultation, and a ferreting out of all these issues. They're raising valid points, but on the at the end of the day, I think we'll go the other direction and should. But on the allies point, the thing that concerns me, and it's a distinction here from the prior Bush administration. They brought together masterfully this international coalition. Over the last decade, that coalition is dissipated. We don't have that agreement, that coming together to try to put Saddam in his box because he was an international threat. We don't have that agreement anymore. The threat is still there. I think it's greater.
Well, whose fault is that?
I think you could go down the list, but the point I think that's relevant for today is that we have flight restrictions in there. People are violating it, our friends, with impunity. We have an oil embargo there. Our allies and friends are getting cheap oil on the black market from Iraq. Russia, as indicated, says they're going to do a trade agreement. China is helping them be more accurate in shooting on our airplanes in the no-fly zone with the fiber optic system. These are our friends and allies that we're now supposed to go to and convince that this is a good idea. We are the number one threat. We're the ones who will have to go in and clean up any action that takes place in the future. They feel like they're not directly threatened. I think that's mistaken, but they feel that they're not on the front line of the threat, and they want to do business, many of them, with Saddam.
Before I give Mr. Eagleburger a chance to respond, you brought up congressional consultation. Should there be formal congressional authorization as suggested by Senator McCain and former Senator Dole this very day?
Yes.
A formal vote.
Yes.
Mr. Eagleburger, you wanted to respond to the allies.
Yeah, I think the senators made a good point about the wimpishness of some of our allies. No question about it. And I don't put the Chinese and the Russians in the same category here.
Unfortunately, they're on the Security Council.
No, I understand that, but I'm talking now more about our NATO allies, and particularly the British, the French, the Germans, and there are even categories there. But all I'm really trying to point out here is that if the evidence of nuclear weapons capabilities and so forth are as clear as we say they are, I have no doubt in my own mind, after 30 years of experience with it, that if we go to the British, particularly the British, but even to the French and the Germans and the Italians, for example, and lay it all out, that they will be with us. It's got to be convincing evidence. I'm not talking about the Chinese or the Russians. I am talking about our closest NATO allies. If the evidence is clear, on this issue, whatever else they may do, on this
French
issue,
and the Germans?
even the French and the Germans, certainly the British, I think they would come along. I can't believe they wouldn't.
Mr. Eagleburger, an article ran on the Associated Press yesterday. Supporters of the war say that one of the reasons that you and Brent Scowcroft and others are opposed are because of business interests you now have in the Middle East.
What have I got? What are my business interests? I'm asking, what are the business interests? I don't have any. In fact, I'm broke.
But when you hear that,
It irritates the hell out of me. Why? That's what.
That's totally unfair criticism.
No, but go ahead. I'm just trying to ask.
what would happen, do you believe, in the Middle East if we invaded Iraq alone? What would happen to Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think it would cause serious problems in all of those areas. I think the Egyptians all of them would be violently opposed to it. I think we'd still maintain the relation. We'd still maintain the relationship.
Would they be
with the
destabilized?
Egyptians. Yeah, I mean you're playing to my points here. But I think that's correct. I think they all would be destabilized. I think it would cause real problems in the region. I think surely Saddam would start popping scuds at Israel.
And Israel would respond.
Oh yeah, surely. I think it would cause major problems in that part of the world and in that region. I suspect the senator would agree with me there. I think that those all, if we're going to go to war in this case anyway, I think we would have to expect that was all going to happen. I think we could handle it, but it simply makes the point I'm trying to make all that much more valid. It would be a real mess.
Front page of the Washington Post, Senator Thompson, the military says Iraq could drain the terror war. Diversion of Afghan forces to Gulf raises deep concerns. Are you concerned that this would dilute our war on terrorism, an invasion of Iraq?
I think that what this article points out and the things that Larry just mentioned are valid points of concern. The fact that it's going to be difficult, the fact it's going to be expensive, it might take something away from other efforts, the fact that there's going to be a major cleanup operation after it's over with, the fact that it will irritate some of our allies. All these, I think, are valid points and essentially accurate assessments. The question I come back to is that after that, what? I mean, where does that lead you? If, in fact, he does pose the threat, he has thwarted international rule and international order, thumbed his nose at the United Nations and the Security Council, and is proceeding apace not only with biological and chemical weapons, which he's already shown a proclivity to use, but with nuclear. Where does that lead us? I mean, do we say because of these difficulties that we cannot act? Is the world going to be safer if we do not act? Of course we need our allies. Of course we need our friends. We need a coalition like we had before. My concern is that we will never, in the immediate future anyway, we will never get that back again for the reasons that I mentioned. And if we have to come down to that real hard decision of acting alone or not acting at all, I would reluctantly conclude that we must act alone.
Do you believe at the end of the day there will be an invasion of Iraq?
Yes.
Mr. Eagleburger?
Oh boy, it's a tough one, Kim. I'm afraid so.
Before we take a break for this segment, Senator Thompson, Congress has been accused of leaking information about the war on terrorism to the media. The FBI is investigating the leaks, actually interviewing senators on the Senate Intelligence Committee, which you sit. One, do you believe the FBI should be investigating people who hold elected office? And two, have you been interviewed?
Yes, I have been interviewed. I think all of us have been interviewed. I think it's a tough, unfortunate situation. I'd rather not talk about this particular one, but in general, I don't think it's a good policy for the FBI to be investigating people who are supposed to be investigating them. We've got serious intelligence and CIA, FBI, NSA, other issues that we're looking at right now. And right in the midst of that, we're turning this thing back around. And maybe Larry can remember the last time somebody caught somebody leaking. I can't remember.
Never. I spent 30 years trying. I never caught it.
Well, I'm afraid it's going to interfere with the investigation that we're trying to do, the intelligence community.
How about polygraphs? Would you take a polygraph?
No.
It's an outrage to ask an elected representative of the American people to take a polygraph. I think that's terrible.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back to talk about the Homeland Security Bill, which Senator Thompson is very deeply involved in, and Senator Thompson's plan to bring law and order to America. Right after this.
Meet the Press is sponsored by GE, a company of great ideas from 300,000 employees around the world. At GE, we bring good things to life. And by Morgan Stanley, one passion, one mission, one principle, one client at a time.
The first time ever I saw you.
When you see your baby for the first time on the new GE 4D ultrasound system, it really is a miracle.
Ever I saw your face.
They have been my clients for 12 years. It was their dream to retire here, to the place where this couple first met, married, and always planned to return. But I embraced that dream with unwavering attention.
Bonjour, Madeleine. Hey, bonjour, ça va?
And it became my own.
Au revoir.
Because that was the dream of my client. And that's what I do at Morgan Stanley. One client at a time.
There's still a place where hard work is rewarded, where the American dream is alive 24 hours a day. A place right around the corner and all around the world. A place called 7-Eleven.
3, 2, 1. Jerry, loving the supply chain proposal. Regards, Skip. That quick? No more waiting for email.
Travel plans are confirmed. Have a good one.
With PCS Vision from Sprint, your colleagues can access information they get on their office PC, right on their phone, instantly. Calendars, contacts, even inventory. So I'll always be in touch. You can put money on it.
Introducing PCS Vision from Sprint. See the power behind the PCS Clear Wireless Workplace.
An aging population is crying out. ADM believes that for every problem, nature has an answer. Why do the Japanese with a diet rich in soy have 1/8 the incidence of prostate cancer? We're finding out and creating natural supplements called nutraceuticals. ADM, the nature of what's to come.
More with Senator Fred Thompson and Lawrence Eagleburger after this brief station break.
Dayline Sunday, a hero baptized by fire, a city scarred forever, one fireman's journey to survive. Dayline tonight, 7/6 Central on NBC.
Wednesday, a Today exclusive.
About your family. How did they take the news?
Charlton Heston's Race Against Time, only on Today on NBC.
I always go for the fast ones, the crazy ones. If you're Italian with 2 bucket seats and no trunk space, I am all over you.
Looking for a car? Come to Cars.com on KGW.com.
Beef ribs, pork ribs that fall off the bone. My barbecue sauce is in a league of its own. Mac and cheese, candied yams, and fresh collard greens. Hush puppy okra, rice with red beans. Is it catfish and chicken? A pork chop with gravy. The best in Southern cooking is yum yams you're craving. Nobody does Southern barbecue like yum yams from the rooter to the tutor.
And we are back. Senator Thompson, Homeland Security Bill. The hopes were to have it passed on the president's desk by September 11th. That is not going to happen. Your Democratic counterpart, Joe Lieberman, has written this. In my view, the administration has blurred the focus of its Homeland Security Bill and risked dragging this common cause into a quicksand of unnecessary controversy by tacking on significant but vague new executive powers that are uncalled for and in some cases unprecedented.
Well, the president wants the same power that all presidents have had since Jimmy Carter. And the Senate bill would actually diminish that power. The president wants the same power for this new administration, for this new department, that the FAA has, that the Transportation Security Agency has, that the IRS has, that the GAO has. They're actually taking back power that some of these agencies have and some presidents have had in times past as we are trying to establish a Homeland Security Department.
Senator Lieberman and the Democrats will say that you're trying to eliminate civil service. Some even suggest the Republicans want to do some union busting by taking away union jobs.
No, they're throwing down the gavel at the wrong place here. The president thinks that because this government in many respects is already dysfunctional and pulling 22 departments together, 22 agencies, is going to be difficult under any circumstances, that the new manager of this thing is going to have some flexibility. We have a dysfunctional civil service system anyway. All the experts say so. We should do something on a broader basis, but at least on Homeland Security, we should give some flexibility in terms of the way we hire, in terms of the way we pay, in terms of the way we discipline, and give the president some flexibility in terms of national security issues. This bill, as it's written now, would actually diminish the president's national security authority that other presidents have had.
Would you prefer no bill to this bill?
Yes.
Do you believe he'll be able to reach a compromise?
I think so. I think so. Surely we can. I don't think a handful of people, only less than a third of these new employees would even be affected by most of these issues that we're talking about. And I understand they've got some very strong representatives who are up lobbying on the Hill very strongly about these issues. But if you read some of the controversies that go on in the collective bargaining agreements about whether or not the smoking area is going to be lighted or what color uniforms they have, you will conclude that in a time of war, these are not the things that we ought to be talking about.
When will we have a Homeland Security bill by? What date?
I think by the end of the year.
Before you go, Senator, as Mr. Eagleberger mentioned, you are retiring from the Senate at the end of the year. Do you know Arthur Branch?
Intimately.
Who is he?
Well, as you know, and NBC and I have agreed that I'm going to be doing a character by that name on Law and Order.
Well,
so we can both give them a plug.
Through our sources, we've been able to obtain this footage. I will not tell you where, even if I'm forced to take a polygraph. Let's watch Arthur Branch.
Sure, let's legalize narcotics. Put all the junkies on an island, let them kill themselves.
Don't tantalize me.
You're kidding, I hope.
You're entitled to hope.
I've heard a few good arguments to legalize drugs, but mass suicide wasn't one of them.
Now, with all the money we spend on the so-called war on drugs, we could buy all the poppy fields in the world and burn them to a crisp. But do we do it? No. And why? Because without a war on something, people in Washington wouldn't get elected. And you thought I wouldn't find work.
That's a political statement. What is a serious question? What is the difference between politics and movies or TV?
Well, I've always thought there was an affinity between Washington and Hollywood because neither really understood what the other did. And I'm still convinced of that. But yeah, I think most of us have a creative side. This is going to allow me to do that. I've always thought politics ought to be an interruption to a career instead of your entire career. At the end of this year, I will have served 8 years, and now I'll be going back to private life, and that'll be part of what I do. But I really do plan on staying involved in these public issues, and there's no reason why you can't do both. And I intend to pursue that.
Yes, I'm serious. You're going to be missed.
Thank you, my friend.
A friend of mine in Hollywood, when I was back in my civil servant days, said, you know, politics is showbiz for ugly people.
Well, I've proved that in both ways, I guess.
Senator Thompson, Secretary of State Eagleberger, thanks very much. Coming next, will the economy, or Iraq, or Social Security, or terrorism be the controlling issue in the midterm elections? Republican Congressman Tom Davis, Democratic Congresswoman Nita Lowey, the chairman of the Congressional Campaign Committees, are next, right here on Meet the Press.
Spin, spin, spin the globe. It's your turn to spin the globe. Spin it, spin it, spin it.
All around the world, Siemens helps companies prosper by providing them with systems and controls that assure quality regardless of quantity. Whatever the product, wherever consumers consume, we want to help them savor life better.
Spin, spin, spin the globe. It's your turn to spin the globe.
Okay, folks, let's get this party started. Call Seattle. Get McGregor on the phone.
Calling him now.
Morning. Morning.
This is Scott McGregor. I'll be out of the office all day. Please leave a message.
That's not like McGregor.
McGregor's not there?
Great.
Excuse me, there's a Mr. McGregor here to see you.
With Southwest Airlines last-minute fares, you'll never pay more than $2.99 one way. So why would you fly with anyone else?
You are now free to move about the country.
So this guy from Iceland walks into GE and says,
Ég þarf að framleiða 500,000 kilowatt.
he needs 500,000 kilowatts of power in the middle of nowhere. Then a customer calls from Dublin and says, she needs to finance computers for half the kids in Ireland. At GE, our people hear two words.
I need.
And that's all they need to know. A customer needs answers and needs them now. So we listen hard and think fast. That's how GE helps airlines get engines that burn less fuel. How GE helps doctors see a heart beating on the other side of the world. How GE uses jet engine technology to make ships fly. The way the people at GE see it, we don't just work for our customers, we work with them. And together, there's no problem we can't solve. Yeah, we can even do that.
And we are back. Congressman Davis, Lowy, welcome both.
Thank you.
Los Angeles Times has been polling. There's only 65 days until the midterm elections. This is what they found. George Bush job approval, approved 68, disapproved 27. And this question, if a congressional candidate would support President Bush's and implement his economic and political programs, would you be more likely or less likely to vote for that candidate? 37 more likely, 17 less likely. With that kind of popular president, Congressman Lowy, do you have problems coming up for the midterm elections?
Well, I just got back, Tim, from a 5-day trip across the country visiting our candidates. They're strong, they're energetic, they are committed, and they're talking about the issues that people really understand. People are worried about the economy. They're worried about prescription drug benefits. They're worried about protecting and preserving Social Security. They're worried about what we're going to do to restore confidence in the markets. And I've felt for a long time that each race is run locally, and the president really doesn't have coattails.
But it is a midterm election. Traditionally, the out-of-control party has picked up large amounts of seats. Do you expect that?
We certainly do. We're expecting to pick up seats, especially in the areas, the Red Rock country, where we are seeing real strong candidates in Colorado, Arizona, Nevada. We're feeling very good about this election.
Congressman Davis, let me go back to this LA Times poll because it's quite striking. What are the most important issues when you're voting for members of Congress? Economy, jobs, 28%. Homeland Security, just 11%. Healthcare, 9%. Taxes, 9%. Education, 9%. A lot of domestic issues seem to be of more importance to people than Homeland Security and terrorism right now.
That's right. Now, over the next 60 days, it could change. Who knows at this point? But we've had an aggressive domestic policy agenda under this administration. If you take a look at everything from the tax cuts, which have helped the economy, I think it would have been much worse without it. We've had a corporate governance issue. We've had a number of issues we have passed and this president has signed. This has been a very active Congress.
Do you think the debate over Iraq is going to affect or influence congressional races?
It'll have some influence. I think one thing it does is it sucks the oxygen out of some of the other issues in the campaign, and that tends to halt some of the attacks going back and forth.
What do you think?
Well, on my trip across the country, people were concerned, they asked questions, but their main focus is on the economy. They're worried about losing jobs, either theirs or a friend or neighbor's. They're worried about their 401k. They're worried about how they're going